Hey everyone, it's Louisa Tanner Munson from Good Astrology and welcome to another week. Yep, we are into the first official week of July, starting on Monday the 3rd of July. Now, what have we got in store? Well, let's find out, shall we? First of all, this is quite a big week. We've got the full moon and also Neptune going retrograde and also lots of different things on a day-by-day basis. So the first thing that really comes to mind on Monday is the fact that we've got Neptune, which is, you can just see here, Neptune is going retrograde. Now, Neptune spends many months going retrograde each month. It approximately an even amount of time, a little less. So it goes forward. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So it's always shifting forwards, but it also retraces its steps quite considerably. So Neptune is going to be going retrograde for many months, pretty much until the end of this year. And during this time, Neptune, like if you think about the whole function of Neptune, Neptune is about ultimate creativity and that ultimate sensation of love, of empathy, of, I guess, the higher octave of creativity. And at some level, it's about merging. It's like, who are we? What is our identity? And so what you might find is that during this time, you are going deeper into the thoughts of your own identity in quite a spiritual way. Now, some people who are possibly needing to distract themselves, their life doesn't feel that comfortable, you might find that during this Neptune time, when Neptune is retrograde, you may well find that it's a little bit too uncomfortable to face yourself. And you might find that you are getting the sort of impulse to distract yourself, with TV, drugs, partying, all sorts of things. There's nothing like a Netflix serial, a new season to keep you going and to keep you distracted. It really almost feels like you're wanting to forget who you are. Now, for those of you who are really actually quite comfortable with who they are, you'll find this stage of Neptune retrograde actually taking you deeper into yourself and also your possibilities, your potentials, and deeper into the whole idea of your purpose here. So this is actually quite a fundamental time, and I'm pretty excited about it, actually. Obviously, Neptune does spend a lot of the year retrograde anyway. It's certainly not the be-all and end-all, and there's lots and lots of other things going on in the chart too. Speaking of which, let's go and have a look now. So we've got the full moon in Capricorn. So there's the sun at 11 degrees in the sign of Cancer. And here is the moon at almost 11 degrees in the sign of Capricorn. It will be at 11 degrees at the time of the full moon. But you can see they're in opposition. Now, this is in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is very much known for all subjects to do with responsibility, ambition, rising up. It's quite cool. It doesn't get too hot-headed. The moon in Capricorn is actually quite steady, quite analytical, preferring to observe what's going on and sort of interact with things when they're ready in their own good time. So it's not a fast effect. This full moon is really sowing the seeds for us to take little steps forward in a grand new plan. And this could be really exciting because, the moon is in a trine with Jupiter and also Saturn, and you might ask yourself, why is it that at the time of the full moon, people aren't going as crazy as usual? I would say it is because we've got this lovely nurturing and expansive and encouraging aspect between Jupiter and the moon, and also this very stable yet not too criticizing aspect where Saturn is in alignment with the full moon. So actually this is a full moon very unlike a full moon. It actually feels pretty calm and pretty serene. So you might feel the sort of usual tensions of, okay, there is something coming up for me to look at, but in that tension it will be expressed in quite a beautiful, quite a practical, and quite a searching way, as if your destiny is at stake. So make your plan when you've worked out where you're going, what it's representing, and step forwards slowly but surely. And this is really actually quite a beneficial aspect in this month ahead. So that's Monday, the 3rd of July for you. Now, moving on, let's have a look at Tuesday. So we've got Tuesday, the 4th of July, and my first aspect that I really wanted to highlight is the moon trine Uranus. Now, where is the moon? Let's find it. So the moon is down here, and it is in a trine to Uranus right up here. Both this happens twice a month, and it's an aspect that encourages innovation, encourages imagination, encourages spontaneity, and this kind of feeling of chance, this feeling of, you know what, let's find out. It's almost like an eternal curiosity. So this is quite a good day to explore things new, and to be quite innovative, to test something that's new, to test something that feels very exciting and unknown and a little bit dangerous. I think people are very creative and also often find like solutions to problems that they've been perceiving. So you might ask yourself, why do we need aspects like this? Well, I think it's just to challenge ourselves, to get off our backsides, is to challenge ourselves to get back in the game again. And it's really to challenge ourselves to move on to something new and to not get stuck and fixated on patterns. Soon after that, we've got the moon in a conjunction with Pluto. As you can see here, moon conjunct Pluto, and the moon is getting closer and closer and closer to Pluto. Now, Pluto is the great transformer. So if you think about this, like this setup, first of all, the moon is in a trine with Uranus, and then later on, it goes into a conjunction with Pluto. What does this mean? If I was to pace these out, I would say this is the opening. You know, as the moon goes into a lovely trine with Uranus, we're encouraged, really encouraged to be free, be independent, and to be curious and to try something new. And then as the moon goes into a conjunction with Pluto, we're having a very intense reaction to it. So I would absolutely say on Tuesday, the 4th of July, which is obviously a huge holiday in America, I would say this is a time when a lot of intense experiences could occur, and possibly mishaps as well, given that Uranus is involved. Uranus can bring about quite a few sort of accidental things, or things where you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. However, it can also be something really good happening because you're in the right place at the right time. So what I would do in terms of the 4th of July is plan something that you want to happen, but don't tie it down too much. So select some really good people to hang out with or to have meetings with, or find a really good place that feels safe but interesting. And I think you'll be really bringing out the very best of these aspects. And so when it goes into this very intense phase, when the moon is in a conjunction with Pluto, it shouldn't be so bothersome. In fact, it could be you deciding that there is a new way of being for you. This could be you deciding that you're having a kind of makeover. You know, you are deciding on a new identity for yourself. So this is very strong, a really strong day. Now, Wednesday the 5th. So what is going on Wednesday the 5th? Well, the first thing that I really want to bring to your awareness is the moon in a square to Jupiter. So the moon is down here, and you can see it's square to Jupiter. Now, the moon is now in the sign of Aquarius, and when the moon is in the sign of Aquarius, it's less conservative, and it's a lot more liberated, a lot more independent, a lot more crazy, a lot more stubborn, I would say. So this is a day when you're probably feeling a lot more outrageous and possibly eccentric. You're probably wanting to live your life on your terms, and you're reminding yourself of times when you have felt really spirited and how much fun you've had when you followed your own path. So there is this kind of background feeling going on. And as it feeds into this lovely square with Jupiter, you might be asking yourself, how much more fun can I have? Now, I do need to give you a word of warning or two, and that is Jupiter and the moon, when they get together in different aspects, there is the feeling of enough or too much. So Jupiter brings an expansion, the moon brings emotion. So if you imagine expanding emotions, you get the picture. It could be really beneficial. I've got Jupiter and the moon in a conjunction in my own chart, and that gives me a lot of emotions and a lot of empathy. Now in this square, it becomes quite challenging because there's a lot of energy and yet there's nothing smooth about it. And the moon is absolutely adamant that they want to be, like that emotional side of you is, I am independent, I will make my own choices, you won't tell me what to do, and I'm going to get jolly angry if you try to stop me in any way, shape or form from expressing myself. And there you go, there is the build-up of the emotions. So this could be quite an emotional day where you push things a little bit too hard and go a little bit too far, and it's worth watching out. And you may well ask yourself, oh, did I go too far? Oh no, this is not an aspect that you really want to be getting drunk at, or it's not an aspect that's necessarily useful when you're meeting your new partner's parents, because it shows that we go a little bit too far. So it's important to watch out for that. Something else that is happening, and this is on Thursday, the 6th of July. Thursday, the 6th of July, we've got Mercury square Chiron. Now, this is a slightly bigger aspect. It's not a moon one, so it's lasting a little bit longer. And the chances are you'd have already been feeling this in the background because, Mercury's at 20 degrees in the sign of Cancer. And Chiron, where is Chiron? Chiron is at 1950. So this is in the early morning of Thursday, the 6th of July. Now, you'd have been feeling this for about 3 or 4 days leading into this event, and it will still be operational for another 3 or 4 days either side. Now, Mercury is all about the way you feel and communicate your feelings in the sign of Cancer. So here, Mercury is a lot more about communicating our feelings, communicating our history, communicating our context, like where did we come from, where do we belong, who do we belong to, and really it is quite loyal. And so you may well find that there's a lot more talk around this time about feelings and working through lots of emotions from childhood, which is very much a theme of Cancer, Mercury in Cancer. Now, Mercury is soon going to be in the sign of Leo. And so, Mercury is now trying to wrap up his business in the sign of Cancer. So it is time to drill into these important conversations in and around the family and around about the home. So Mercury is going into this square with Chiron, and Chiron is the wounded healer. Now, it's also, I think, a symbol of what happens when we address our wounds and address our sore spots, because it can bring us mastery. But this is showing a triggering. This is showing that you are thinking about something, like something is triggering, something is coming up in your unconscious mind. And you may well ask yourself why you are feeling these things. Why are they suddenly coming up? Why does this suddenly come up right now to be healed? And that's a really good question. I guess it's just that, the time is right. The atmosphere is right. We're going through the Cancer times where people are thinking more about their families and how to spend time together. And so, now is the time. Now, if you can address one of these things that you're feeling triggered about, you can actually own that pattern and own it as part of your shadow and kind of claim it. And then in the doing so of it, it fails to be a triggerable event. It's almost like as you observe it, as you recognize this is your pattern and not somebody else's pattern, this is what you do every time this little physical trigger or word trigger or smell trigger comes up. Every time you get to the bottom of that, if you can realize it's you that's having the reaction, it's only you that is feeling things and thinking things. If you can realize that it's yours and it's yours to let go of, then you can let go of it, and then comes the mastery. So this really could be quite a beneficial event. Like I say, it's already a few days in the making, and it will go on for another few days thereafter. Also, what's going on Thursday the 6th is we've got the moon in opposition to Venus and Mars. So if you see, the moon is still in the sign of Aquarius, and we are actually really quite independent and eccentric and a little bit wilder and a little bit more independent, wanting our freedom. And the moon, first of all, makes an aspect. She goes into full opposition with Venus. This reminds me a little bit of the square that we had earlier this week with Jupiter, because both Jupiter and Venus are planets of well-being. They are planets to do with expansion in one way, shape or form. And they're both feel-good planets. They are considered the benefics. They are there to really help us and to help us get into our flow. So when Venus is in opposition to the moon and our feelings, I often think that, the feminine function, the loving function, the loving side of us is corrupted at some point. It feels like, we go too far, we push our lovers too far. We often see our lovers as opposition, and we may well play games to find out if the people that we're in our relationships with, the people right in front of us at that time, we might play games. We might try to get them to prove their worth in some way, shape or form. So this is quite this is quite innocuous. It doesn't seem such a big deal. The moon moves quite quickly. Venus moves quite quickly. It doesn't stick around too long. It's like a fleeting event. It can bring up feelings of possessiveness and also jealousy, which is a darker side of the Venus energy, the love energy. It's like holding on to love. Venus is much more happy when it's expressed as a generosity. So you may also find that issues of jealousy come up. Now, when the moon goes into complete opposition with Mars, which happens later on in the day, not much, a couple of hours later, what's going on here is that the anger that is represented by Mars really kind of comes on, and we have a very short fuse. And so we can be a lot more argumentative. Remember, this will pass away quite quickly. This isn't a long-lasting event, but it's fair to say the combination of Mars and Venus together is highly steamy. So this could be a very enjoyable sexual day, but one that brings up a lot of questions about, is this person for me? Is this person, do we belong together? What relationship and responsibility do we have to each other? And, this is also a time when we might get off, we may well feel quite insecure and get defensive and also play power games. So that is another one to watch out for on Thursday. So Friday the 7th of July. Happy birthday, Carl, my husband. We have the moon in a conjunction with Saturn. So where is that? So here it is. In this chart, the moon has just moved on a little bit more. All of these charts are set to midday, by the way. So this aspect happened a little bit earlier in the day. So we have the moon in the sign of Pisces. When the moon's in the sign of Pisces, we have this feeling of empathy and a lot more flexibility. We might not really know our mind. We might feel a little bit wishy-washy. It's quite dreamy, very daydreamy. It's not in a rush. And it's highly, highly sensitive. And then we have this aspect of Saturn. Now, Saturn shows us, it's almost like all of our beautiful, warm, loving emotions come hard up against a cold metallic surface. That's how it feels, or a cold stone, like marble surface. And then all of a sudden the warmth is just drained away. It's like, where did my emotions go? Because Saturn can kill emotions dead very, very quickly. Now, what we're hoping for with this moon and Saturn conjunction, with it being in an exact conjunction, what we'd really like is for Saturn to almost capture some of that loving energy, that creative energy, that dreamy energy, so that it can do something with it. And that's totally possible. The important thing to know when the moon is in a conjunction with Saturn is that if we feel insecure, if we feel like we're having a bit of a power struggle in terms of people having power over you, or the assumption that you're not good enough, which really does play in with pretty much any Saturn aspect, especially Saturn moon. when the moon and Saturn are together, it's quite possible that we feel on a low ebb. We don't feel like we're in our full strength. It's almost like we're emotionally drained. In fact, I think emotionally drained is a really good description of the moon and Saturn together. Now, we could turn that around. If we are aware that we might feel a bit drained, and we're also aware of how we benefit to the world, what a great person we are, and we're in a good level of self-esteem and not doubting ourselves or putting ourselves down, then we can actually use that Saturn energy to shape and mold our emotions on that day so that they don't dissipate. Because that's one of the problems with the moon in Pisces, is their emotions and their psyche are tuning into all sorts of different levels through different veils. They're in different realities all day long. And so Saturn here really helps to draw it all together. So use that energy really wisely and put it to some really good creative, good use. Something else that's coming up, and talking about creativity, we've got Mercury sextile Uranus. So let's find Mercury. There's Mercury just here. And here is, where it is, there it is. There's Uranus in a sextile. Now, this is a very inventive, light-hearted energy. And it's quite specific and quite avant-garde. So Mercury here is able to really use the energy of Uranus, which really tunes into the collective, really tunes into a higher level of consciousness. So this is a really great day for people who are adventurers in consciousness, people who like to talk about it, like to puzzle over things, chew things over, but also people who are designing their life using consciousness tools. It's also, I think, something that would come up in the charts of inventors, architects, anyone that has a really acute eye for design. So this is a really fantastic day to draw up some plans that allow you to bring your wild and crazy visions to reality. So, on Friday, what we can really see is we've got this potential energy here where we can capture our emotions and keep them all in one place so that we've got a full docket of psychic energy to work with, whilst also creating and harnessing really powerful dreams for ourselves. So this is a very, very strong day, I would say. So Saturday, the 8th of July, what is going on there? Well, we've got the moon in a trine to Mercury. So the moon is now in the tail end of Pisces. So it's still very dreamy. And now it's in a trine to Mercury. Well, Mercury here is in quite a dreamy place as well. If you remember me saying, Mercury in the sign of Cancer is all about the emotions and the history, in particular the history of the family, the history of the childhood friends, all those stories. Stories is a really good word for Cancer, especially Mercury in the sign of Cancer, because we're telling ourselves stories. What has happened? What is the legend of your family? What are the tendencies? What has happened? And what does that mean for every descendant from your ancestors? This is quite a historical account. And so we've got this lovely moon in Pisces trining it. It's like our emotions are really seeking out these stories today. But the trine is really beneficial. It's not there to punish us. It's there actually to bring us greater ease. So what I see here, and also you'll notice that on this day, the moon is advancing, is getting closer to Neptune. And so what we've got on this day is this invitation to go really deep into ourselves, to really find out where we come from, what we're about, and how we can make it work for us. So it feels really, really good. So it's a very, very dreamy, creative, and quite healing day, I would say. Now, like I said earlier, the moon conjunct Neptune is quite a big aspect. So we've got the moon here connecting with all of our dreams and creative potential as harnessed by Neptune. Now, Neptune's a tricky figure. Neptune is the ruler of the oceans. And as such, if you think of the vastness of the ocean and what it contains, we can only see a little way into the ocean. We can't see beyond our arms, really. And anyone that I don't dive, but I've been known to snorkel, and you can clearly see what's, in front of you, and then all of a sudden it goes dark. And I think that really is a good description for Pisces energy, but also Neptune, which is one of the rulers of Pisces. And so we are in these very murky, lurky old depths of the human psyche. This is big. Now, if you're very good as a channeler, if you are somebody who is looking for ideas, developing ideas, and you're not afraid to go into your darkness, and you are okay to dream and also have the occasional nightmare. It's almost like a curiosity to wander blindly through things. You don't know what you're going to bump into. You don't know what feelings might come up, but things will come up. So this is almost, like if you're at the sea and you want to have a little paddle, and then all of a sudden it drops away and you can't quite see what you're walking into. It's a little bit like that. So Saturday the 8th of July, it could be full of emotional time bombs. It really could. However, for those that dare, and for those with a really strong heart and a really strong, I would say faith is a really strong word for this kind of aspect and this kind of day. If you've got the faith that you can face pretty much anything, and continue to walk with authenticity in the direction you want to go into, I think this would be a very powerful day. Last of all, Sunday the 9th of July, and now we've got Mercury in lining up with Neptune. Now, this will sound a bit familiar because it's picking up on the themes from Saturday. So now the moon has moved away, and it's quite cool because the moon is now in the sign of Aries, and so we're not wandering around blindly anymore, feeling everything. We're actually now really wanting to make a move, create some actions, and chop, busy. We want to absolutely get on with things. So there's nothing really holding us back. We are unleashed. It's almost like the last 2.5 days, from when the moon went into Pisces, that we've just had a little go slow for a few days. We've been mulling things over, and we've just been taking our time. And I think those moments are very, very important, when we can rest. On Sunday, what is happening is we're starting to pick up the pace again. Now, how does Mercury in a trine fit into that? How does Mercury trine Neptune support us? Well, what I think is we can start to make creative use out of the ideas and the thoughts and the narrative that we've been building over these last few weeks. To me, it feels very strongly like we've got a story, we've got a narrative, we've got something building in our hearts, and we're finding the words now. We're able to articulate some really complicated stuff from our childhood, and it really feels like actually, I know what I'm talking about now. It's almost like the mystery is starting to reveal itself, and it's doing it in quite a gentle way. So this Neptune and Mercury trine, I think, is raising psychic awareness as opposed to emotional psychic awareness. This is bringing us into a place where our visions, it's like a vision quest, where our visions can really bring us the next step, can give us a clue as to what's being asked of us. And it is possibly a time when you may have a mentor, a spiritual mentor or a guide that shows up and is instructing us. It does feel like we can see through the veils and go into a different reality. It does feel like we can be quite purposeful in bringing a whole new perspective back into our conscious living lives. So there you go. That is my week ahead for the 3rd up until the 9th of July. I hope you found it useful.